What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and this is specifically the NWA Powerrr recap that is happening where we're going to be talking about the January 7th edition of NWA Powerrr that just immediately happened because, yes, I'm recording this immediately after it happened. And why am I recording this immediately after it happened? Well, because that's how I roll. Because it's all fresh. Because you want to get that energy, that spontaneousness into it. Plus, I don't want to thank everyone for watching right now. But if you were or are a member, a supporter of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show over on patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes, if you are a Power Pal of the show, if you're on the Power Pal tier, well, you get to join in live for this recording. Plus, you get access to this a full day before everyone else does. So, early access, live recording, live chat, whoop-de-doop-de-doo. It's just, wow, wonky bonkers. That's right. So, but don't worry. I mean, if you ever do want to consider supporting the Mr. Warren Hayes Show and getting extra content, well, you can do that. Otherwise, you can sit back here and enjoy. You can still support the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on Patreon as well. There's a basic entry tier level at $2 per month. And that's just to show your appreciation for everything I do. And I really appreciate that you show me appreciation. The important thing is that we are here today to talk about NWA Powerrr once again, because that stuff is fantastic. Just finished another show, the second show of 2020, where it starts with a recap of last week, where Nick Aldis basically chickened out of his NWA TV title tournament spot against Tim Storm. He gave it up to Royce Isaacs, who lost miserably against Tim Storm, who advances in the tournament. But then, as the show officially starts, as we actually get into some real action, Tim Storm comes out, and he says that his next opponent for the tag team tournament, for the TV title tournament, is going to be drawn blind. Now, I don't know. I thought I understood the rules of the TV title tournament, but I don't. Clearly, I don't. I don't understand what's going on, because Storm says it could be anyone. It could be an NWA legend, or it could be someone from another promotion. And he weighed a little heavily on that. I think, personally, it's just a swerve, but you never know, because we did get a surprise at the end of the show, nonetheless. And Tim Storm says the NWA fans deserve to see Nick Aldis versus Tim Storm last week, and he blames Aldis for the match not happening. And almost as if on cue, Camille comes out, and she grabs the microphone out of, I think it was Joe, I don't remember if it was Marquez or Gali. I'm sorry. But she grabs the microphone out of his hand, whoever he is, and she brings it up to her mouth as if she's supposed to speak, right? But you know the drill by now. You know what happens. She doesn't speak. Camille doesn't talk. That's not her thing. But Tim Storm goes off on her though, and he wants to know what's going on in Nick Aldis's head. That's what he wants to know. He wants to know what's going on in that brain of his. How can he be the face of the company, Tim Storm says? How can he be the face of the company, Nick Aldis? If he no-shows the main event, what kind of sicko champion does that? And he asks Camille, is that because Nick Aldis is a coward? And she just slaps him across the face. Wham! Mama Storm's baby boy just got the taste whooped out of him. Just flew out of his mouth. I think this is what I want to see now. This is what I want to see. I want to see Mama Storm versus Camille. NWA, you're listening. I know you are. Book it, you cowards. Make it happen. That's a money match if I ever heard one. Then we get some more drawings for the name pickings for the TV title tournament. Turns out that Dave and Zane Dawson are going to be fighting each other next week. And Tom Latimer is going to be fighting Trevor Murdoch as well. So the tournament moves on. We have another qualifier for the TV title tournament this evening. Zicky Dice against Caleb Conley. Caleb Conley slowly turning into one of my favorite wrestlers on Powerrr right now. That kid is very, very good. In fact, he's so good that he's in control early on. He hits a great drop kick on Zicky Dice. Some chops in the back body drop as well. He hits a nice slingshot head scissors as well. A leg sweep and a senton covers Dice, who kicks out at 2. Dice then catches Conley off a leap. I think he was jumping off the top or the second turnbuckle or something. Catches him into a bear hug, and I start groaning. But oh no, he doesn't stay long in the bear hug. Zicky Dice transforms that bear hug into a nice Northern Light suplex with the bridge. But Conley kicks out at 2. Dice fails a corner cannonball on Conley. And Conley starts punching him down. Face wash kick in the corner. But Dice fights back and he's able to hit the snake rattle and roll neck breaker for the win. Well, what are you going to do? This was a good match. This was a fun match. And Conley was in control for the vast majority of it. He got all the offense in, and it's okay because that's what Zicky Dice's character is. He's supposed to be like this I guess this coward in a certain way who the kind of heel that doesn't get any offense in, but then all of a sudden at the end just twists things around and is able to pull out a pin out of nowhere. That's his thing. He's just, that's pretty much it. So it's fine. It's fine, but I feel like Caleb Conley is a guy you can get behind very, very easily because he's really, really crisp in the ring. Everything he does is precise and good. I sort of wonder if the NWA is a fit for him. I feel like he'd be better served in a promotion where they're with smaller guys, lighter guys who can be as athletic as he can be. I feel like he's holding back. Kristen Ashley in the chat says, LOL Zicky Dice. You got to appreciate a name like Zicky Dice. I like it. He's the poor man's Michael Hayes is what he is. Next, there's an interview with my boys, my spirit creatures, Shooter Aaron Stevens and the question mark. Aaron Stevens, of course, holding the third degree national title because he is a third degree black belt in Mongrovian karate. And he starts, he basically puts down all the other opposition, potential opponents that he has, saying that he hasn't found the right opponent yet to defend the title. But when he does, he will. He puts over the question mark, saying that the question mark, of course, going after the TV title, and they're going to hold all the gold on their end because the question mark is going to win the TV title tournament. Now, what the question mark was sitting there in a robe, a nice silken scarf around his neck, fully masked, of course, and with sunglasses. And I was sitting there looking at him, and I'm like, that right there is a fashion goal. That was amazing to see. And I would love to be able to pull off that kind of look as convincingly and as beautifully, excuse me, as the question mark does. Next match we had was Thunder Rosa versus ODB. In my opinion, match of the evening as well. Allison Kay joined Stu Bennett and Joe Galli on commentary, where she was basically putting over her feud with Melina and Thunder Rosa. Like, she's saying that Melina manipulated Marty Bell, her best friend Marty Bell, away from her. So she was putting over the fact that, Thunder Rosa may be there as well, but she's not afraid. She ain't afraid. Rosa starts up with ODB. She ties her up and she tries to take her down, but ODB strikes with a couple of knees, big forearms to Rosa's chest. I don't think people have multiple chests yet. We're not that far into human evolution. Some open hand chops as well follow. Rosa fights back with a knife edge chop of her own, and they just start striking at each other. Rosa hits some kicks. ODB with a clothesline takedown. Rosa toe holds ODB into the ropes, and they reverse in and out of some ground and pound situations. But Rosa takes her down finally with a drop kick. ODB fights back but runs into a boot. Rosa flies off the top rope, but ODB catches her. Sends her up and over into a fall-away slam. ODB then goes up top and jumps off. And this was a little awkward as far as the spot went. I think it's just camera positioning that didn't help. But she flies off the top rope or the second rope. And Rosa, I think, just moves away. Because ODB just sort of lands on her feet. And I think she was supposed to have tweaked her knee or something. It wasn't clear. And I'm going to chalk that one up to bad camera work because you didn't quite see what happened. Rosa gets a couple of nice strong yes kicks. She avoids a fireman's carry and reverses it into a backstabber. She goes up top and hits the coup de grace on ODB on ODB's back. She was on all fours, and that's that. I dug this match. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I was wondering just how much in the tank ODB still had. And quite frankly, I was surprised at how much she was able to deliver. Like, I don't feel like Rosa was trying to cover up for it. Didn't feel like there were any smoke and mirrors. Of course, you're not going to have a technical Kurt Hennig versus Bret Hart masterclass when ODB is in the ring. But everything played off really, really well. Both women worked super well with each other. This was a fun match. And I'm really interested to see what else they have going forward with ODB. Because between you and I, ODB has never been my cup of tea. This is just personal. It's not a knock on her career, what she's done. This is just very, very personal. She's been okay, but never much interest. I was never really interested in anything she really did. But I'm looking at her tonight and I'm like, wow, okay. Either I've been missing out on something, or this was something that she hasn't done before. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I'm going to have to go back and watch some more ODB tapes. Probably won't. But this was a good match. Looking forward to see what else they go on here. What goes on here between in the women's division, I should say. Nick Aldis comes out, and boy, he's got some heat with the studio crowd in Atlanta. They do not like Nick Aldis. I would say this heel turn is successful. He's got himself some heat. They start calling him a coward. And Aldis plays up to it as well. He takes his time. Goes up to Joe Golly, who pulls out a stack of questions because he's a reporter. He's a journalist. So he's got his questions ready. He's got a stack of questions, and Nick Aldis is like, I know what question you're going to ask me. And Joe Golly's like, oh, yeah? What's the question I want to ask you? And Nick Aldis says, you want to ask me about Camille and why she came out here to slappity-slap Tim Stormy Storm. And Joe Golly says, well, let's start with that, Nick Aldis. Tell me about Camille slappity-sleeping, sloppity-slooping Tim Stormily-Lorman. And Nick Aldis just goes, he tells her that, this wasn't a swerve. I've been telling you for weeks, folks. Camille is not my insurance policy anymore. She is a full-fledged member of Strictly Business. And he starts talking down Tim Storm, the Rock and Roll Express, saying that Ricky Morton is making a paycheck off of his hard work. Nick Aldis says there's only one place he doesn't go because he's about to wrestle an exhibition match. And he says there's only one place he doesn't go 6 minutes, and that's in the bedroom. And he says, ask the missus. And rest in peace, Mickey James's mentions tonight. Poor Mickey. I hope Nick gave her a heads up. You know, it's like he just texts her and says, hey babe, by the way, you're going to get a whole bunch of mentions on Twitter. Oh, really? Why? It's all right. Anyway, he's about to fight Ricky Starks. It's an exhibition match. It's not for the title. There's no real stakes for it. But it is a 6:05 match. A little back and forth between them both until Starks gets a 2 count on Aldis off of a roll-up. Aldis catches Starks again and whips him upright and hits a brain buster. He clotheslines Starks down, a few kicks, a fallaway slam, covers him, only gets 2. Starks fights back with a sling blade, gets Aldis into a tornado DDT, but Aldis avoids it. Instead, he eats a missile drop kick. Then Starks covers him, but again, we only get a 2. Aldis stalls some more, and Aldis stalls. Not some more. He stalls for the first time in the match, and he goes outside the ring, which allows Ricky Starks. What the hell am I talking about? Got Avengers on the brain? Jeez. Starks topes onto Aldis, who is on the outside. And keep one thing in mind, and this was a nice tope, and keep one thing in mind. There are no mats outside on the floor in the NWA studio. It's just like it's not concrete, but it's like, you know, what is it, linoleum? What's that pressed glazed stuff? Don't look at me. If I were an architect, you'd think I'd be sitting around doing wrestling podcasts. I'm kidding. I love this. I love what I'm doing. You know I'm being stupid. You know I love you guys. Anyway, but they get back into the ring. Aldis avoids a moonsault. And Starks lands on his legs, tweaking his knee. This was very clear. It wasn't like what happened earlier on with ODB and Thunder Rosa. I am not a fan. I am not a fan of the knee tweaking stuff. Remember, not that long ago, that happened like every match in WWE, and by God, we hadn't seen it in a while, and it's still too soon. It's still too soon for the tweaked knee spot. I still don't like it. So Aldis comes after him, but Starks is still able to get a small package on Aldis, who kicks out, and he gets the Texas cloverleaf onto Starks with about 1 minute to go in the match. Starks tries to fight out of it. Aldis is not letting him reach the ropes. Starks is just hanging on, and the crowd is into it. They are buying the time limit thing, which it does reach. We do get a time limit draw here. The bell rings, match is over. Aldis thinks he's won, but it's a draw. It is a draw, and Ricky Morton comes out, and Morton starts asking. He says, "Why don't you give this kid 5 more minutes? Why don't you give are you going to tell me you're going to let this kid just hang here? Why don't you give him 5 more minutes?" And he turns to the crowd and said, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. Gets everyone to chant. And I'm like, Ricky Morton, are you the booker? Do you come out here and make matches and stipulations? Richard Morton? Is this your job now in the NWA? You win the tag team titles and then suddenly you can make matches? But Aldis says, no, I'm not giving him 5 more minutes. He says, I'm not going to give him 5 more minutes. He didn't beat me, and this isn't a charity. So then Morton says, why don't you give me 5 minutes? And then he whips the crowd up into friends, and I'm like, Morton, you're not the booker. Because the referee's there, and he's like, I don't know. Maybe Mr. Corrigan could come tell me what to do, kind of thing. Jeez. Move on to our main event. An alleged triple threat tag team match. Eli Drake and James Storm versus Colt Cabana and Ken Anderson versus the Wild Cards. But the Wild Cards don't show up for the match, so it's just a straight up tag team match, and I'm okay with that. We start off with Colt Cabana and Eli Drake, who start off. Cabana extends a hand so that Drake can shake it. Drake is a little weary. He doesn't shake it, but he fist bumps it. They lock up. There's some mat wrestling that follows. An elbow, a snapmare, and an elbow drop by Drake, who covers but only gets 2. Cabana gets back in control, and he tags, Ken Anderson tags himself in to fight Drake because they don't like each other, Eli Drake and Ken Anderson. And Colt Cabana seems a little off-put by Anderson tagging himself in. He wasn't expecting that. But, hey, he rolls with it. It's fine. But Drake fights back with a diving shoulder tackle. Storm gets tagged in, double elbows by the Drake Storm combination. Storm covers Anderson for 2. Head scissors by Storm follows, but Anderson takes him down with a flying clothesline. The combination of Anderson and Cabana tag themselves in and out quite a bit. There's an enziguri by Storm that follows. And finally gets the tag to Eli Drake, who hits a side Russian leg sweep, a power slam, and a big jumping elbow. Anderson then uses dirty tactics against Drake, but Cabana doesn't want to do anything with those sneaky tactics that Ken Anderson is trying to employ to get a quick win here in the match. Cabana is he's about fair play. That's why he wanted to shake first. He wanted a good, clean fight. Drake finally gets Cabana down with some double knees and knees to the face off the second turnbuckle, which was a nice spot. Anderson in the meanwhile runs to the outside as Drake starts crawling over to get the tag to Storm. And Anderson takes out Storm. He does something to the knee. We didn't quite see it. Again, the camera work didn't pick it up. But the ref goes out to check on Storm. Meanwhile, back in the ring, Colt Cabana hits the Superman pin on Drake, but the referee is just outside long enough when the pin connects that he has to get back into the ring to start the count. So he gets so Drake actually kicks out at 2. However, if the ref had been there from the get-go, they would have got 3, and Cabana and Anderson would have won. And Anderson realizes this, and he gets a little mad. He gets a little pissy, if we're being honest. And he goes after the ref. He starts arguing with the ref, and he puts his hands on the referee. And what does the referee do? Throws the match. Says, no, DQ. You're done, son. Hit the bricks. You don't touch a referee. There's a whole bunch of people out there in Twitter land who would probably very much appreciate a referee standing up for himself like this and not being tossed around by the talent and calling a match like that. So Cabana and Anderson are disqualified. Drake and Storm win. And after the match, Cabana is steamed. He's not happy. Keeps telling Ken Anderson, "You're better than this, man. You're better than this." He's disappointed. He's angry. He's not content with how the match turned out. And honestly, who can blame him? I wouldn't be. This was a good match. This was fun. I'm going to tell you, James Storm is ridiculously underrated. Ridiculously underrated. He's very, very good at what he does. He does big men. He does things that a man his size and his age should not necessarily be doing, but he's doing it because he loves what he does. And that's fantastic. That's something I can get behind. Eli Drake is someone that the NWA has to put all of their energy behind. You know, this is something that Impact waffled on and couldn't quite seal the deal here. But man, I'm telling you, Eli Drake in NWA, he is in his element. He looks so good. Colt Cabana, fantastic, especially if they're booking him as like this very honorable babyface. I think it'll work great. Ken Anderson does nothing for me. Nothing. I'm going to tell you, even when he was Mr. Kennedy in WWE, he didn't do much for me. Thought his promos were good. I think those were fun. The microphone gimmick was cool. But this is a guy that's never ever clicked. And out of the three guys who worked tonight, his was the I wouldn't say the sloppiest, but it was the least performance heavy. Let's put it that way. And it's kind of the same judgment I reserved to him at his match at Into the Fire versus Eli Drake. I thought Drake tried to pull a good match out of him, and he tried his best, God bless him. I don't know, man. Ken Anderson's not doing it for me. And that's the thing. When you have guys like Eli Drake and James Storm, and who could instantly be credible as top-level world championship contenders, when you have guys underneath like Ricky Starks, like Caleb Conley, I don't know why you're wasting time on a guy like Ken Anderson. I really, really don't. And we think that the show is over, but Strictly Business come out. Nick Aldis wants to explain why wild cards weren't involved in the match, and that's because he can giveth and he can taketh away, right? That's what I think the can is superfluous, right? He giveth and he taketh away. That's more like it. He says it wasn't in the best interest of Strictly Business to participate in that match since there were with such thugs. I'm like, okay. And he would like to invite the Rock and Roll Express in for a chat, which they oblige, of course. Robert Gibson is wearing a T-shirt that says "Loyalty is a hoax," and boy, oh boy, there are a bunch of wrestling fans out there that I would love to give that T-shirt to. Phew, boy. Anyway, Aldis is talking about setting up a match, Team Morton versus Team Aldis, a 6-man tag. If Morton's team wins the match, he gets a shot at the NWA Championship. So that's basically it. If his team wins, he gets a title shot. Oh, but as Aldis says, don't get yourself all worked up over nothing there, Richard Morton. You may think you're the booker, but you're not going to be able to place yourself in this match. I'm not going to be in the match. You're not going to be in the match. So you find yourself 3 dudes, and I'll find myself 3 dudes. You'll probably have Robert Gibson. Find yourself 2 other guys. As for me, I'll have the wild card plus a 3rd person. And he literally says, "Now, who's the 3rd man, brother?" And he does the Hulk Hogan. That got a good chuckle out of me. And who is the 3rd man? Who is the 3rd man? We're not going to wait for weeks to get that big reveal. The 3rd man is Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner. Now, I love the NWA right now. I think they put on some of the most compelling weekly wrestling shows. I think it's super easy to watch. It's a good time. Pace is still super quick. I love the concept of the NWA. It's working. It's clicking. Women's division is super good. But, I mean, not too long ago, they had they had Marty Scurll show up after a pay-per-view on an episode of Powerrr, and I was saying, here's the good thing is that NWA still shows that despite the fact that they want to be old school and that they have, the Rock and Roll Express hanging around and being tag champions and having some old WWE guys hanging around, they're still able to show that they are that they understand still where the business is heading, where it's going, who's hot. That's why, getting a guy like Marty Scurll on just demonstrated that to me. I was like, okay, well, they're still connected. Scott Steiner, for better for worse, I don't know what he has to contribute. I mean, if this is just a couple of appearances and then he's done, I'm fine with that. I don't know when they're going to do this 6-man tag. I don't know if it's going to be next week or the week before. I don't think it's going to be on the pay-per-view, or is it? I don't know. But I'm not terribly stoked about this. And I think they need to lean off the legends a little bit, especially when it's guys like Scott Steiner, who is another guy who can be very volatile. At some point I'm going to stop feeling sorry for the NWA. They hired Jim Cornette. They know what they're getting themselves into. Melina got into some hot water. Nothing too serious. Dave Marquez sort of had a little thing a couple of weeks ago as well. And now you're getting Scott Steiner. Here's another guy that if you give him a live mic, you're in trouble. You're potentially opening yourself up to garbage. So, they're playing with fire. And at some point I'm going to stop feeling sorry for them if they're going to keep bringing on these weirdos. I don't know. Reserve judgment, but it's not something that I get excited about. I'm more like, I don't think they're helping their cause. And I think they have to stop. They have to try to lean less into the past and move forward. Like I said in the match before, you have two guys who can instantly be put up as a legitimate contender for the NWA championship, the world title, and be credible threats and have a great match. I think they have to leave the Tim Storm thing to the side. I'm okay if he goes after the TV title. That's fine. But Nick Aldis being in a feud with Ricky Morton is a little weird. Scott Steiner coming in to back up is a little weird. This does not feel fresh. It doesn't feel exciting and new. I'm kind of like, I'm reserving judgment. I'm not calling out. I'm not sitting here and saying NWA is TNA 2.0 at this point, because it ain't. It ain't. But we'll see. Look, don't get me wrong. Let's not finish this on a sour note. This was a fun episode of NWA Powerrr. Really, really fun. Thought the matches were fun to good. I thought that the women's match was particularly real good. You should check it out. It's a fun show. There's no reason why you shouldn't watch it. There's really no reason why you shouldn't watch it this week. It was a lot of fun. Lots of storylining. Some good stuff. Per usual. No big surprise there. But you know what isn't a big surprise? That's about time to wrap it up, because I'm done recapping the show. So it's not really a surprise. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for joining me this evening live, or whenever you can listen to this, either on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes or on your favorite podcast application, because it will be available everywhere. But remember, if you want to join me live during the recording of this show, and chat, join the chat here, or just have early access to this video before everyone else does, consider supporting the Mr. Warren Hayes Show at youtube.com, at patreon.com /Mr. Warren Hayes. The Power Pal tiers get access to this and a whole bunch of other goodies, so be sure to check that out. I will be back, this Wednesday, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, on Fightful for the Wednesday Night Wars podcast, then Thursday with my own show. Got a busy week ahead of me. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.